Welcome to Mattville, my Minecraft 1.6 to 1.7 era single-player world, from a time where every single second of my free time was wisely spent in this wonderful game. First we'll head from the spawn point to the Squid Farm. This was the last structure I made before I quit. The water sources are at the top of the structure, with the idea being that the squids will spawn and be dragged downwards by the current. The water is blocked at the bottom by signs on top of a floor of hoppers, causing the squids to drop into the air, take damage from being out of the water and die, thus depositing an ink sac into the hoppers that direct it into some chests. Here are the chests. As you can see, I vastly overestimated the needed storage space. All the other chests are empty. You're supposed to clear out all the nearby water sources to increase the spawn rate in your trap, but I didn't bother. None of these farms are my idea. By the time I had started playing, all of the farming mechanics had been worked out by other people, so I learned how they worked from their tutorials. Now we're looking at the Iron Golem farm. I wasn't going to build one of these because it seemed a bit too much like cheating to me, but when Mojang decided to break them in a new version they made, I decided to build one and have it running for a short while to give me something to build. The community reacted badly to the decision and they decided to keep them functioning, and it's hard to return to being poor when you're used to a rich man's life, so I kept it. The golems spawn and fall into that lava, dying and dropping iron and a poppy. Go look up the mechanics if you're interested, because there's no way I'm explaining why it works. Having so much iron means that you can't get excited anymore when you find it in the wild, but you quickly get over the loss when you realize you're loaded. The farms around this area are all built on spawn chunks, which means they stay running all the time you are in the overworld, because they remain in memory even when you wander a long distance off. Next up we have the Cactus Farm Pyramid. A block next to a cactus will cause the cactus block to break. A cactus with a height of 1 block will eventually grow, meaning that you can place a block next to the space that the cactus will grow into, and the second level will automatically break off when it appears. This will fall to the floor and be collected by a water flow that carries it into a hopper that channels it into some chests for collection, assuming the dropped cactus doesn't hit any other cacti blocks when it breaks, thus getting deleted. Having 3 levels to this farm was overkill. I have no use for cacti, and I don't think I've ever used anything that this farm has generated. I just made it for an excuse, for something to build. We'll now head back to the front of the farm and go underground to look at the storage chamber. Once again, I went a bit overboard with the amount of chests. This is the first column of chests that the cacti get fed into, and it's now full. This is the second column and it's only just starting to fill up, so I still have plenty of empty chests. I really don't need any of this whatsoever. We'll head back outside now. Having a floor above the top of the chests and above the exit was a mistake that has caused me much confusion when trying to leave the building in the past. I don't think there is much of interest up there other than a bit of hopper routing. On our way back you can once again see the train station at the world spawn point. The blue sign with a letter U on it was stolen from the U-Bahn network symbol that they use in Germany for their underground urban railways. Here we have the chicken farm. This is a pretty strict copy of one I found on a tutorial on YouTube because I was too hungry for any creative embellishments. The chickens at the top lay the eggs that get collected and dispensed at the bottom. When the chicks mature on the half block, they grow in size and so get cooked in the lava. They drop cooked chicken and feathers that get collected by a hopper under the half block and get directed into chests. You'll notice the usual pattern of having way too much storage space. I don't really care, I just wanted it to look good. The climb back to the top is painfully slow, so I sped the video up to save you the torture. Here we have the egg farm. The chickens were supposed to wander inside the glass cage and lay eggs into the hoppers. It worked well for a while, but eventually the chickens would glitch through the hoppers, take damage and die. To keep it functioning, you'd have to keep topping up the chicken population, but at some point I stopped caring about it and let it fall into disuse. I probably should have made it so the chickens walked around on half slabs with the hoppers underneath that. This is the kind of nonsense I come up with when I try to think for myself. Straight in front is the first structure I ever made in Minecraft, my cobblestone pyramid. This was the first hole I ever dug in Minecraft in order to survive the first night. The pyramid was built up on later days. I had no idea what I was doing, so a lot of creepers spawned and the blasts were filled in with cobblestone. We'll not spend too much time in here because we've all done these characterless little chambers at some point. It's getting dark, so now would be a good time to show the inverted pentagram torch sign. As you can see, it's an inverted pentagram made out of torches placed on cobblestone. It's very evil and satanic, so people of a nervous disposition should look away and say some prayers to your God to protect yourselves from the dark spiritual forces that are drawn to it. The glass on top is a viewing platform. This dull-looking rectangular wooden building is just a storage shed for items. We've all made these horrible things at the start of our Minecraft careers. This was also the location I made my first flint and steel and decided to test what it did, so it's actually a replica of the original building that was completely destroyed. In the excitement of showing you the pentagram, I forgot to show you one of the more interesting builds in this area, my huge wheat farm, so we will be returning here at some point via some awkward video editing. The room where the fire began. That's the staircase to the pentagram viewing platform. Here we have another U-Bahn Station, hence the blue U. Triple doors might look good, but they open in a very unsatisfying manner. Don't do them. Let's head on down to the platform. I'm not going to pretend that the yellow, red, and black color scheme looks good. I get better at making them as time goes on, don't worry. Every platform has a utility room that I used when building the station. This one is pretty basic. This was the first station that was made. We'll start our journey over to ZX Island via the bridge. There's a little tower that I made over on that small island. You can see that it's connected to the pyramid and another little structure via an underwater glass tunnel. The glass tunnel is part of a tunnel network that connects all of my early builds so that I could travel at night without encountering mobs. You were really meant to travel inside the glass on this bridge rather than on top of it. I had no idea how big Minecraft worlds were at the point I made this bridge, thinking I was trapped in high water on an island, so this was a pretty big moment of discovery for me. That's supposed to be an European coal and steel community flag. I was reading a book on the EU at the time and it seemed an appropriate thing to build. Ahead is my implementation of an early mob grinder. By the time I built it, it was already obsolete due to changed mob AI, but I figured I would still get some drops from it and it seemed like a nice project. It still works, just not very well. The mobs spawn in a dark, sealed-off chamber and are supposed to follow you, falling off their platforms into a stream of water that pushes them into the central glass chute, where they fall and die. Hoppers are there to collect the drops. Nowadays there are some mobs that can take more damage, such as ones spawned with armor or witches, so they get trapped in the chute without dying, because it's not high enough to kill them. Flicking the switch turns lights on in the spawn chamber, which prevents mobs from spawning and switches the mob grinder off. There you can see an example of two mobs that survived the drop. And one just now that didn't survive. You can never have enough zombie meat. Apologies for the wandering, I lost my bearings for a second. Astute observers will have noticed by now that the European coal and steel community flag has too many columns of stars. Ahead of us, made out of netherrack and featuring dual inverted lava crosses, is the evil church. Once again, people of a nervous disposition may wish to look away. If you want to kill the congregation, you can press the button on the left to shoot arrows at them from dispensers hidden behind the flaming netherrack. Once you've sent them all to hell, you can retreat down the trapdoor to your living quarters for some well-earned rest. The trapdoor at the end of the corridor connects to the tunnel network that I talked about earlier, so you really are able to make an easy escape after your slaughtering. Next we'll head up to the wooden viewing platform to see the Black ZX Spectrum building from the top. Here is another access point to the tunnel network. I'll not insult you by pretending this viewing platform has any aesthetic value. The building we are looking at is based on a Sinclair ZX Spectrum computer released in 1982 by Sinclair Research. There are no rubber blocks in Minecraft, so these keys might be a bit easier on your fingertips. Alas, I didn't build a tape drive to go with it. Having chests next to a wall made of wool is a very bad idea when there are creepers in the neighborhood and has resulted in a number of unpleasant incidents. We're currently on top of the dining table, and this is the sleeping area. A bath. Pulling the lever releases water from the top. An enchanting table. Another entrance to the tunnel network. A few targets for archery practice. A table with an anvil on for repairing stuff. And a table for potion brewing. With its own basic nether wart farm underneath. There are a hell of a lot of sheep around here that I used for a project that required a lot of wool. If I were standing here back on the computer I used to play this on, the frame rate could drop as low as 5 FPS. In front of us is the old 512K floppy disk building. I remember these from the Amiga era and most of mine tended to be blue. The inside contains some pixel art. That's supposed to be a game of Pong. And on the other side is Mario. It's not my design, I copied it. Here's another bridge leading off the island. Over there is a stripped forest with torches on. I stole the idea off a dead guy. Someone shared the world that a dead relative had made whilst they were in the process of grieving. I noticed they had a few areas like this and I shamelessly copied them. This trapdoor leads to a sleeping area precisely for moments like this when it's dark outside and you know you're going to get attacked by mobs when you leave the safety of the bridge. I can't actually remember whether it was building this bridge or the earlier bridge that made me realize how big Minecraft was. Either way it was a big moment and probably a feeling similar to the one Christopher Columbus had when he discovered America. I suspect it was this one actually. A basic sugarcane farm. We're now heading on over to the ZX Island U-Bahn Station. This one has a Nether theme to it. Another entrance to the foot tunnel network in there. I'll cut the footage of the minecart journeys for now. There will be a sped-up run-through of the Red Line network from terminus to terminus nearer the end of the video. This station is on the outskirts of a mountainous region, just across from the bridge you were on. It's the only station that has two train lines running through it, the red line that we were just on and the green line that we will travel on shortly. Over there is a little hut to store supplies in. It has a triangular shape but you can't make it out properly from this angle. It's also as far as the foot tunnel network goes. We'll head back into the U-Bahn Station and travel over to the jungle on the green line. There are only two stations on the green line. It has a slightly better build quality than the red line, with powered rails constantly on, instead of being switched on when the cart goes over an adjacent detector rail. I found very occasionally the detector rail method would glitch and fail, but it was important to maintain them across the whole red line, for the sake of consistency. It looks like I actually put some effort into this utility room for once. Using dispensers as a decorative item is a pain in the backside because you need a bow to craft them and they don't stack. I had obviously become a bit better at making U-Bahn stations at this point. I never really managed to get the hang of these doors. The station appears a lot more phallic than I intended. Ahead of us is a cocoa bean farm. There are water sources at the top. Each lever will pull down some sticky pistons connected to the wall that keeps the water contained, allowing the water to flow down, breaking the cocoa pods as it touches them, and pulling the dropped seeds down to the bottom in the current, where they are collected by hoppers and directed into a chest. This would be considered an old design, because dispensers exist and dispensers can be used to dispense water. Now we're heading back to the U-Bahn Station, where I'll use some awkward video editing to take us back to the spawn area, so I can show you a couple of farms that I missed out. First we'll take a look at the small Nether Wart farm. It works the same way as the cocoa bean farm but has no hoppers, meaning the Nether Wart has to be manually collected. Both levers do the same thing. There are two purely for aesthetic reasons. You can see how the water breaks the Nether Wart, and given enough time will bring all the dropped Nether Wart to the collection area. And now we'll look at my wheat farm. It's quite big and took some time to dig out. It works the same way as the cocoa bean and Nether Wart farms, but once again there are no hoppers. Each lane is independent and has an associated lever in front of it for harvesting. There are a few carrots in here as well. There are chests on the back wall in the same configuration as the chests behind us, but they are currently too far away to render. This farm is within the spawn chunk, so I never went hungry after this was built. The only issue is that the occasional Enderman teleports in and steps on a few of the crops. Now we'll go back to the U-Bahn Station by the pyramid, travel to our next destination and take a look at my biggest build, a build that took a few months to complete. Welcome to the European Minecraft Union train station. The decoration is in the style of the EU flag. At the time I was reading a textbook on the EU as it was becoming an increasingly charged issue. Don't worry though, this video isn't going to descend into political ranting on one side or the other, but at the very least my interest in the topic did provide inspiration for some decent builds. As we exit the U-Bahn Station, we'll see the entrance to the European Minecraft Union itself. There's the flag in the middle of the quartz entrance structure. You have no idea just how long I spent in the Nether mining out all the Nether quartz needed to build this thing. It could have taken a lot less time if it wasn't for all the times I fell in the lava. When we pass through the entrance, we'll emerge in a courtyard that contains all the flags of the 28 member states at the time this was built. That's Austria on the left and Belgium on the right. Bulgaria, Croatia, Cyprus, Czech Republic, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Ireland. Ahead is the main dome building, containing a debating chamber and utility rooms. All the flag installations are double-sided, so we'll take a look at the others on the way out. This is the debating chamber, with a flag as carpeting, a glass dome ceiling, a podium to talk from and some seating for the audience. There's a raised wooden viewing platform around the entire perimeter of the chamber with more seating. We'll head around the outside passageway to have a look. There's some storage space under both sets of access stairs. I think you get the idea. Around the back is a staircase down to the utility rooms. This is the cafeteria. And the dormitory for visitors to sleep in. The leaf block walls don't really provide much privacy. There's also a large storage room. And a very unhygienic looking collection of toilets dotted around grim looking corridors. We'll begin our exit and take a look at the flags we missed on the way in. That's Latvia, Italy, Luxembourg, Lithuania, the Netherlands, Malta, Portugal, Poland, Slovakia, Romania, Spain, Slovenia, the United Kingdom, and finally, Sweden. That was all a lot of work, and I had to create a small base in the ground with its own strip mine and farm to keep me going. We're heading over to it now. This is the main room with plenty of storage space, a bed, and stuff for crafting. This is the wheat farm that kept me well fed when making the EU Minecraft Union. I didn't have a big farm in the spawn chunks at the time, but I spent a long time around here so it grew quickly and I never ran out of food. It works the same way as all the others. A single lever harvests all 3 lanes. This is a room full of ovens. Possibly too many ovens. And down here is the strip mine. At the entrance is a storage room for the things collected when mining, and there's also a sleeping area. It's just a basic strip mining operation, nothing much to show here. There are a number of these mines dotted around the world. Astute observers may have already spotted the entrance to another one earlier in the video. I'll give you a quick view of what the European Minecraft Union looks like at night, before heading back into the train station and traveling to our next destination. It looks like this. And like that. This is one of the terminus stations for the Red Line. It connects to one of the strongholds that each contain an end portal. Another utility room. Once we exit the platform and drop down the stairs, we will be in the actual stronghold itself. Strongholds get generated by the game, the player doesn't build them. The reason I'm showing this to you is because they come ruined, and I spent some time restoring it so it's in one piece. The U-Bahn Station platform isn't part of the stronghold, but I designed it to make it look like it is. You can just make out the end portal room across the chasm. I won't show you anymore because you get the idea, but it's a fairly nice stronghold with 2 libraries, 1 complete. Now I'll show a complete journey on the red line, terminus to terminus, although I'll speed up the footage so as not to overtax your attention skills. The sensible thing to do is to build your train system in the Nether, where 1 block corresponds to 8 blocks in the overworld, meaning your travel time is a lot shorter. I'd already started building this by the time I realized it, so I carried on with this for the sake of consistency and because of the sunk cost fallacy. The tunnels have been nice and smooth until now, but as we get into the earlier tunnels, you'll see that I didn't yet have the aesthetic sense to realize removing dirt and leaving more blocks alone is a nice idea. This is the last stretch of tunnel and was also the very last part of the tunnel to be built. We're about to arrive in the terminus train station, a station I built for easy access to an NPC village. Let's look in the utility room first. This particular station is underwater, hence the use of the blue lapis lazuli blocks. You can see the NPC village on the horizon. Villages are generated structures and come pre-made when the world is generated. I built the station so I could easily access it and socialize with the inhabitants. We're heading in this direction to get a better view of the station, but if we were to continue following the coastline we'd eventually end up back at the spawn area. We're spending a bit too long hopping around in this area, but we'll eventually head back and travel to the spawn station, look inside that, and then finish off the video. First we'll look in the utility room again. This one is fairly unremarkable. I like the look of the platform, but the corridors behind it to the surface feel claustrophobic because of the low ceilings and the thin width of the passageways. We're almost to the surface now. Just a few more steps. This is the inside of the U-Bahn Station that we were looking at as the video began. We'll continue over to the viewing platform on top of the inverted pentagram and wander around aimlessly for a bit before falling asleep. Thank you for watching my video. I was hopelessly addicted to this game for well over a year, and I don't regret a second of it. Unfortunately, the online servers that I used to play on will have long since deleted their old worlds, meaning everything is eternally lost, which is a shame, because I spent a lot of time on there too. The end.